welcome back to the Unholy Trinity podcast. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this is the second part of the South American Revolution with our South American football journalist and Colombia expert, Simon Edwards. And we're going to move on and discuss, first of all, a player that we're now strongly linked with. Again, the planes and helicopters are being tracked again for this player. Where is he? There's rumours he's in England already. And that is James Rodriguez from Real Madrid. Obviously, a massive name in the world of football. Someone who's been in the spotlight for many, many years now, has played for top clubs around Europe as well. And he's been linked strongly, as I say. And the rumours are that there could be a deal done almost with Everton for him, whether it's on loan or permanent, we're not quite sure. But Simon, if I bring you in there, how exciting is it for yourself to see James come potentially to the Premier League?
Yeah, no, for me this is great. It's I've been asked, where do I want to see James go? What about Atletico Madrid? What about PSG? What about all these different clubs? And I've always said, for me, James is best when he is the best player in a good team as opposed to a good player in the best team. And I think that undervalues his contribution as well slightly, given the fact that he's averaged a goal or an assist per 90 since 2013. So while his minutes and importance at Real Madrid has declined, his contribution has never been in doubt. Now, there's been injuries here and there, whatever, but you look at the contribution he's made when he's on the pitch, every 90 minutes, he's either scored a goal or created an assist. And you compare that to what Everton have at the moment. I mean, the top assisting midfielder was Sigurdsson with 3, and Bernard with 3 goals as well. James has never got that lower number in either category. We're talking 12, 13 goals, 10 assists. And obviously James is playing a teams that are dominant, so there's a question there. But it's huge, and I think in terms of the impact this has for Everton, I mean, Everton already have Yerry Mina, who's very popular in Colombia, but James is a real superstar. People love Yerry Mina, but James, everyone's grandma knows who James is. Everyone's grandma loves James Rodriguez. So I think you're signing a player with elite quality. There have been questions about his attitude, and we can talk about all those potential issues, but you're signing one of the most consistently creative attacking midfielders in Europe. So I think lots of reasons to be excited.
Most definitely. I mean, when his name first came up around about the January transfer window, obviously it's an easy link to make, I suppose, with Carlo Ancelotti, having worked with him before. But to hear that kind of quality name linked to the club, and you think, how can we do it? He's on a lot of money at Real Madrid. They're going to, I know he's in the last year of his contract now, but they're going to want obviously some kind of fee. Talk then came up of a loan deal potentially, with a view to a permanence at the end of the season. But he's definitely a name which has got all Evertonians talking, and you think back, we mentioned before we recorded about the goals we scored at the 2014 World Cup, and that's what probably sits very heavily in Everton fans' memories, because obviously global football tournaments, heavily televised, that's what you remember about that particular player. But what do you think, in terms of the quality, you mentioned he's got elite qualities. Where do you think he fits into that Everton side at the moment? Where would he play, do you think? Would he be given a free role potentially? What do you think would be his position in a Carlo Ancelotti Everton side?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that he has freedom and has importance in the team. I mean, people look at the 2014 World Cup and think, it was something in isolation, but at every level he's played up until that, he was the best player in the league. So in Colombia, 15-16, he's playing for the first team. He was the best player at the Pony Football Tournament when he was, an under-14s tournament when he was 11. Was the best young player in Colombia, went to Argentina, won the league with Banfield, a team I imagine most people here wouldn't have heard of. River Plate, Boca Juniors, but a little club called Banfield. He was a star man as a 18-year-old and won the league there. Went to Porto, was a star. Went to Monaco and had ridiculous numbers. As I say, that was, in terms of goals and assists, was an incredible season. Then had the World Cup, then went back to Real Madrid and was had the best numbers in terms of assists in the entire team. With goals were incredible. So I think that narrative that he's just a one tournament guy, and you know, what a tournament, the top goal scorer in a team that got knocked out in the quarterfinals is crazy. And he was the best player in that tournament. Messi is the greatest of all time, but that tournament belonged to James Rodriguez. So, you know, that's all the positives. In terms of system, he has played to the left of a 4-4-2 before. He played deeper for Bayern Munich. I think that isn't really his ideal position. Ideally, you want him with freedom to go and pick up the ball wherever he wants, to do whatever he wants, have the freedom to get forward and attack. You know, he'll score goals. His free kick delivery is incredible. You know, with Yerry Mina, if James can find Yerry Mina's head, or get it in the right area, Yerry Mina will clear out 3 or 4 defenders and get a good chance on goal. So set piece delivery is one to definitely watch. But yeah, ideally he'd play behind either, for example, a 4-4-2 diamond in behind a couple of strikers, or you play him as a support striker in a 4-4-2, or maybe a 4-2-3-1 and you play him in the hole with 2 wide wingers and a striker. You basically want enough people behind him so he doesn't have to waste his time defending, because he's not great at defending. He'll put in an effort, and he's passionate, and he gets fired up, and he wants to take responsibility. I think that's the main thing with James. He takes responsibility for the game, which again is why it's so important that he's the main man. If he's the 7th, 8th, 9th player on the team sheet, then he's playing a supplementary role. Then he's enabling others, which isn't what you want. You don't want him passing to somebody else to play the final pass or get the shot on goal. You want him to be the guy receiving the ball in dangerous areas. So while I can see him playing on the left of a 4-4-2, he won't provide a lot of defensive protection. I can see he has played deeper centrally. Again, you ideally you want 2 players behind him covering him, particularly if you're playing attacking fullbacks. So for me, ideally he's the 10. You can play him cutting in from a wide area in a 4-3-3. He tries very few dribbles. Like he's got skill, we can beat a man, but he's not the kind of player to get his head down and beat a man on the outside and whip him across. He'll never do that. He doesn't try it. You want him to get on the ball. You want him to play the incisive passes and get his shots off in goal. But he can do a lot, but you want to give him a lot of freedom to play his best football.
Yeah, and that's going to be intriguing to see where, you know, obviously he does sign on a dotted line, where he does fit into that side, because naturally, obviously, a player who's bought as a number 10, nowhere near the same kind of ability as James, but Gylfi Sigurdsson, after obviously when he was brought in, he was brought in for a particular system to play as a number 10. When obviously that manager goes and a new manager comes in, and other managers since then, you know, systems have changed, and he doesn't particularly fit in to the system because he's a number 10, and we don't particularly play a number 10. So it'll be interesting to see what Carlo does in that respect and where he does play him within our system. Very much we've had a little bit of a chat ourselves, the old lads on the podcast, about maybe having a bit of a diamond, see if he fits in there. Like you say, he could play just behind the front man as well. But very, very much my impression of James is, yeah, you know, give him a free role, let him almost do what he wants, because his defensive capabilities are not the strongest part of his game. But that's where, like we said in part 1, where having players behind him like Alan, like Decore, people like that who can win the ball, break up play, and obviously bring other players in. That's where he could fit in. But it's something, as I said, it's something which has really captured the imagination of Everton fans, and I think fans of the Premier League, you know, they've sort of stood up and thought, hang on, what's happening at Everton here, getting linked with obviously players of that kind of calibre. There's hope there that he can obviously recapture the form that he's shown over a number of years. We know obviously he's been a little bit thrown out by Real Madrid, but like you've touched on, his numbers speak for himself really, and he's a player, I think, who Richarlison maybe especially could really work well with. Like you say, set pieces. You know, we've got a good set piece taking Luka Dean with his left foot. Having someone else like Rodriguez as well in the round, free kicks, corners can only be a positive. And like you said, then, you know, big Yerry Mina coming steaming in corners, free kicks off a Rodriguez ball would be fantastic. But it's something which I'm hopefully going to see and looking forward to. But what I want to touch on with James is, off the pitch, how important is the profile because we look at, obviously, we're in an age now where social media is so important. You look at his Instagram followers, you look at his Twitter followers. He's into tens of millions on each, which is incredible numbers. How important is that for Everton to tap into that side of things and really raise the profile of the club?
Yeah, it's obviously huge. James is up amongst the very elite. When you talk about South American players, you've got Neymar in Brazil, you've got Suarez, Cavani in Uruguay, Messi in Argentina, and James in Colombia. In terms of his profile, he is head and shoulders above now. There's Cuadrado, there's other players who've had a big impact, Falcao, but James is huge. In terms of marketing, he's an attractive guy, a lot of followers, female followers, male followers. He's going to sell shirts. I think I would expect Everton to sell more shirts this year than they have in decades, perhaps ever. Particularly if he gets a good start, a couple of goals here and there. Now, everyone in Colombia is going to be wearing an Everton James shirt. I don't know how much money that's going to go into Everton because a lot of them come from downtown, from China, and they're knockoffs. So you won't see a huge amount of that money. But overall, James Rodriguez sells shirts. Wherever he's been, he's sold shirts. You get him in that number 10 shirt. You build the club's image around him, and it's huge. And he's only played since arriving in Europe. He's only played for the biggest team in each league. He's played for Porto. Obviously, Monaco was a little slight step down, but then we're talking Real Madrid, we're talking Bayern Munich. So even having a player of this profile and this ability and this quality associated with Everton makes Everton a bigger club. This signing puts Everton in a different bracket in terms of marketing, in terms of international awareness. James Rodriguez, there are people who've never heard of Everton in Colombia who will now be turning on their TVs to watch Everton play because they got James, they got Jerry, they've maybe got Santiago Arias. So I think it brings a lot of legitimacy to the project. It brings a lot of prestige. It potentially brings a lot more money as well, because he's still a huge name. To be the best player at a World Cup is something very, very few players in history of it going to be able to say. So while we'll have to wait and see if he can reach those incredible levels, I will point to the numbers again. It's insane. People consider his time at Bayern a failure. Well, if he's getting 0.6 goals a game is a failure, then that'll do. That's his worst ever season in Europe is twice as good as Gylfi Sigurdsson's in terms of numbers. So yeah. I mean, it's a big upgrade.
Of course, and the numbers, like you said, they do speak for themselves, and let's hope we can translate those numbers to the Premier League, and I really hope we get this deal over the line, and he can do that. Before we do move on to obviously another Colombian player we've been linked with, I asked you the same question about Alan. How important is Carlo Ancelotti in getting this deal done?
Yeah, I think it's vital. I don't think James joins Everton if Carlo Ancelotti is not there. I mean, just in terms of the salary reduction, we're talking 45% reduction in salary to go to somewhere. Now, again, one of the concerns you can say with James is he didn't really like living in Germany. Didn't like the cold. He also said that the people were quite cold. He didn't really connect with the society. So my advice to Everton is be really, really nice to him. Really nice to him.
I don't think there'll be any issue there in regards to the fans being nice. One thing I think that I know we can at times, we can be seen as quite a critical fan base in a sense, and that's because we want the best for our club. We've gone so long without winning the trophy, and it's something which hangs around our neck really, really heavily. But one thing the likes to say, Yerry Mina, he's been, so well received. Now, bear in mind, there are quite a few injuries since he signed for the club, but as a character himself as well, he's a warm character, and fans take to that. And you see it on the pitch, if a player gives their all, listen, the fans will fall in love with you. Make no mistake about that. Alan, exactly the same. Said to you before, if he throws a tackle in and starts celebrating a tackle, the ground will erupt, and we fall in love with that. And I don't see any issue at all with fans not giving James Rodriguez the full backing, and I'm pretty sure that he will forget about any kind of cold winters in this country, just because the fans will be backing him all the way. And as I said to you, if he can bring those numbers to the Premier League that he's shown all around Europe, then it's going to be a fantastic deal for Everton Football Club. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would just say as well, while while James isn't going to be flying into tackles, one thing that will be evident, and I think will be very clear, how much he cares about winning football matches. Like he's, you see it for Colombia where he's important, where he takes ownership. He prides himself, and he's a player who has high expectations for himself, believes he's very good, and has great deal of confidence, but he hates losing. And he's a player who, if the team's losing, will go and get the ball and will make something happen. So I think while you won't expect one of those Jenny Mina shoulder tackles into the third row with James, what you'll get is a player who cares deeply about the result. And if the team's playing badly, he will be suffering with the fans. Like he will be desperate to make that difference. And that's again why I think while he's done well at these huge clubs, I think he's a player who's well suited to taking a slight step down and being the main man and taking ownership and taking responsibility. James will see himself as carrying this Everton team. He'll see himself as responsible for this Everton team, this project, and he'll be given the assurances by Ancelotti that he's a key man. So you'll see James desperate as anyone in the Everton stadium to win and to show that his value is there, because he's taken some knocks. People in Colombia have given him some digs, like, why are you staying at Real Madrid when you're not wanted? Get out of there. Everyone in Colombia was blaming Zidane, and the narrative has slightly changed to blame James, in the last couple of years. So I think you'll see a very motivated James. He won't be chasing back 50 yards to win the ball in defence, but when Everton have the ball, he will be desperate to get on it and make a difference. So it's going to be a really exciting project, and it'll be exciting to see how it happens. But I don't think any Everton fans will doubt his commitment, because he won't accept failure from this Everton side.
Yeah, and if the fans see that, then, as I said before, the fans will be totally on board, because one thing that really gets to us is not seeing players who care enough. And so when we had a real shot of getting into Europe last season when we came back after lockdown. Obviously, we had 9 games to do it, and we started okay, but we just tailed off, and no one seems to care about it. As fans, we're sitting there watching the games and thinking, put in 10% more effort there and we win the game, and we weren't seeing that, and that's something which really annoys us Everton fans. So if we can see that kind of commitment and that kind of love for winning the game of football, then, as I say, that the fans will absolutely fall in love with them. And as I say, it could be a real fantastic partnership with James Rodriguez and Everton Football Club. But if we can, before we do wrap up, we had a quick chat yesterday, and there's been a little bit of talk about obviously Everton getting in some right back, whether it's cover or someone to come in and maybe replace Seamus Coleman at right back. And the talk has been around a little bit Arias, another Colombian, and whether we can potentially bring him in. Now, Seamus Coleman obviously getting on a little bit now. He is one of the club captains. John Joe Kenny's come back from loan from Schalke. There's a bit of talk about whether we might sell him, and any money we get in for John Joe Kenny then goes towards the replacements. Djibril Sidibe's gone back to Monaco from his loan last season as well. So it's an area that we'd said before the season ended, we need to probably look at that, because if Kenny's not deemed as good enough, then we need to really look at someone that we can come in and potentially take over from Seamus Coleman. But what's the talk in Colombia about this deal?
Yeah, there's been a lot of positive signs in terms of this being completed. The latest news today is that Atletico Madrid are happy to let him go for the type of money offered, 13 million, more or less. And Arias is interested in the idea. It does look, the sense in Colombia is that it's going to happen. I've seen reports similar in the UK. So I think for the money, he's a natural right back. Sidibe would cost a similar amount and had maybe slightly mixed results there in Everton. So you're getting a very natural right back who I think balances very well off against Luca Digne. He's an attacking right back, but he's not one who flies forward uncontrollably. He likes to get forward. He crosses very well. He's got good pace, gets up and down, good athleticism. I think if Everton can reinforce in front of the back four and allow their fullbacks to push on, is the same as the way Digne does. I think he offers a lot of balance on the right hand side. again, he's at Atletico Madrid at the moment. He's in competition with Kieran Trippier at right back. Initially, he was the preferred option over the season. They kind of shifted a little bit more towards Trippier. Before he went to Atletico Madrid, he was the best player in the Dutch league. He's been 55 caps for Colombia. He's been mostly irregular. In the last Copa America, they brought in Stefan Medina, who's a good centre-back. Stefan Medina is a converted central defender. So I think the switch towards Stefan Medina is an attempt to be more conservative defensively for Colombia. So I think it's more tactical than in terms of reflection of the ability of the respective players. Arias, I mean, he's an experienced player. With both James and Arias, you're getting two very level-headed, family men, serious guys with children. They're not Tino Asprilla. You're getting some very sensible, educated, stable, very serious Colombian internationals. So I think Arias is a very smart signing. He's not particularly strong in the air. He's not particularly conservative. So I think you're going to get a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses as you get with Lucas Digne. A good attacking fullback who's solid, who's above average for kind of a wing back defensively. He's good. He wins the ball well. He's tenacious. He's good in 1v1 situations. And he'll also get forward and provide a good option on the right-hand side. So for me, for the price, you're getting a bargain if you can get this Arias deal over the line.
Yeah, it's another one, isn't it? Where we're talking about Carlo Ancelotti trying to put his stamp on the side. Now, really, his first proper going for Arias to play well known to the Premier League that's one where speaking cut it at the club. I think he did well at Schalke last season, and Schalke didn't have a particularly great season, but he got good reports in terms of how he played. But I think we will look to cash in and freshen things up there, because Arias is a player that Ancelotti sees that will fit into his just one thing there is providing that balance. So you've got someone on the right who's very similar to Lucas Digne on the left-hand side, and straight away, if you bring in Alan Decore, you've got midfielders there who can cover your full-backs if they want to push on. So let's hope that deal can come across. But do you think it's important, if James does sign, and obviously we've got Yerry Mina already at the club, do you think that's going to be an important thing for Arias to think, well, I've got a couple of friends there who I've known for a number of years, and that might influence his decision to come and sign for the club?
Yeah, as I say, his personality is similar to James. James is a bit more flashy. James, is into the media stuff, whereas Arias is much more low key. Has been married since early 20s. Very, very serious guy. Been in a relationship since he was a child as well. So he's very stable. And I think they're very good friends, James and Santiago Arias. So again, I think James moving or expressing a desire to move to Everton also will influence Arias' decision. But I mean, you're getting a regular international right back for one of the top 20 national teams in the world. So I can't really say any problem. The price is good. He's spent 7 years in playing in top European sides, PSV, Atletico Madrid. So you're looking at a player who knows the European game, has played in physical games, high importance games, and if he's good enough for Diego Simeone to want to sign, then he's pretty solid defensively, and his attitude's there as well. So yeah, I think it's a very sensible signing. I think James is exciting, but I think Arias will be at least a 7 out of 10 pretty much every game. So he'll also pop up with the occasional assist. His assist numbers are good. You can get 6-7 assists, comparable to something like Lucas Digne on the other side. So it also gives Everton the option, if they wanted to play a diamond, it will give them width on both flanks as well from fullback. So it does give them perhaps some more tactical options, and it allows them to maybe switch up if they want to play more centrally. They wouldn't need to rely on the wingers providing the width. They can have good balance either side. A couple of defensive midfielders in front of the back four. A couple of fullbacks flying forward, and then it frees up James and some good attacking options. So, yeah, I think it's exciting times overall for Everton at the moment.
Yeah, and it's exciting for ourselves as fans to see, and if we do manage to get these 3 deals that we've discussed over a couple of videos and obviously on the podcast as well, it's really going to give it a massive South American feel to Everton. With obviously those 3, you've obviously got Yerry Mina, Richarlison, Bernard. It's going to be a club which is full of that kind of that South American flavour, which is excellent. And it's something which really excites us as fans to see us linked with these kind of names and see what Carlo Ancelotti can do with that quality as well. Let's just hope that we can get back inside Goodison Park and see them live sooner rather than later, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of excellent performances from all those 3 if we can get them over the line. But Simon, I really appreciate your time today. We had a discussion earlier about how strict lockdown is in Colombia compared to the UK. So I'm sure it was something which was good for you to fill an hour of your day today speaking to ourselves. But I've really enjoyed it. It's great speaking to people who've got that extra bit of knowledge about players and obviously utilise their time to research and talk about these players all the time. And I appreciate your time today.
No worries. It's been fun, and yeah, I think Everton will be the Colombian Premier League team, so that's pretty exciting as well. I imagine TV numbers will go through the roof, and you might flog a few shirts. And as I say, some of them are going to be knockoffs, but you might get a few quid as well coming over here to Colombian shirt sales.
That's it. Marketing's important. However we can get it, whether it's real shirts, fake shirts, whatever it might be, we'll definitely take that. But for everyone who's listening, thanks for listening to the podcast today. For those watching, thanks for tuning in to our first couple of videos as well. We're going to be back on the podcast next weekend as we do our transfer special with friend of the show, Andy McGregor, El Pivote. So we will catch you then.